Today, we're taking a close look at something pretty specific, but really aspirational. It's the mission statement for the Obama Presidential Center. So we're not getting stuck on the building plans or anything like that. We're diving into the idea behind it. What's this place actually supposed to do? The source we have lays out this really clear vision, its purpose, its function, just based on their own goals. And right away, there's this interesting tension. It's about preserving history, obviously, but it seems to define itself by what it wants to achieve going forward.
Okay, let's try and unpack this. Is this mission statement setting up something genuinely new for this kind of institution?
Yeah, that's really the heart of it, isn't it? When you're launching something this big, the language they choose, this aspirational language, it's very deliberate. It sets expectations, sure, but it's also signaling how they see themselves staying relevant down the line. So with this document, we really have to dissect that push and pull between, looking back at history and trying to actively shape what comes next. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What do they actually call it? The source consistently uses the name Obama Presidential Center Obama Presidential Library. And that combined center library thing feels like more than just a name, right? It sounds like it's pulling in two different directions.
It absolutely is. That dual identity is critical. Think about a presidential library. Historically, that's about preservation. It's archives, scholarship, keeping the records safe. It looks backwards. Fundamentally, its main job is to be that definitive, stable record of a presidency. Important, definitely, but kind of institutionally passive.
But slapping the word center right next to it flips that script immediately, doesn't it?
Completely. It shifts the whole center of gravity, you could say. A center suggests, well, activity. It applies a place for people to gather, to engage, to act. It's forward-looking, focused on today's issues, tomorrow's solutions. It needs to be accessible, dynamic. So the institution is basically saying we want to be both. We want to be the serious archive and this high-energy hub for what's happening now.
Wow, okay. That sounds like a huge challenge logistically. How do you even manage that? You need the quiet, secure space for an archive, but also a noisy, busy, collaborative space for community programs. It's almost like the name itself sets up a conflict in how the building needs to function.
Exactly. Getting that balance right is the real trick. If they pull it off, it means the OPC is trying to blend this sort of seriousness of historical study with the nimbleness of a modern, action-oriented nonprofit. It suggests the archive isn't just for scholars tucked away somewhere. It's meant to be a visible foundation that actually fuels the active stuff happening. It's like they're refusing to let the past just sit on a shelf.
And speaking of things happening soon, the source makes it clear this isn't some far-off dream. It explicitly says the opening is slated for next year. So this isn't just planning talk. This mission has to become reality, now.
Right? That deadline really underscores the urgency. All these ideas, the dual mission, the big goals are about to be tested in the real world very soon. And for you listening, understanding this language now is pretty crucial if you want to judge later how well they're actually living up to their own blueprint once the doors open.
Okay, let's get to the core of that mission then, the really active part. The source says the OPC is designed to be a hub for change. I mean, that's where it really breaks from the mold of a traditional library, right? It sounds less like a monument, more like a tool.
Hub is such a functional word there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about it visually, a central point where things connect, resources flow in and out, and people go off in new directions, but changed or equipped by the connection. That definition alone tells you it's not meant to be just a static memorial, a place you go just to look back and admire things. Its success seems tied to the activity it generates, the connections it makes, maybe more than the history it holds.
It almost sounds like they're trying to build a kind of perpetual motion machine using history as the fuel.
That's actually a pretty good way to put it. And the mission statement gives us a specific kind of two-step process for this change. The order seems important too. First, people need to get inspired. That's the spark, right? The intellectual connection, the emotional pull you can get from engaging with history, which any presidential center could offer. But crucially, it doesn't stop there. That inspiration is just step one. The really defining second step, according to this vision, is for those people to then take what they learn back to their own communities. So the measure of success isn't just the aha moment in the center. It's about what happens outside, driven by that exported learning.
Okay, but that feels like a really big leap. Inspiration can be easy, relatively speaking, but sustained, difficult, specific action back in your own neighborhood, that takes huge effort, resources. Is it really plausible, based on this source, that a big international center can spark concrete strategies that work for, say, a small community group somewhere totally different, maybe even another country? That gap seems massive.
That is the core challenge, absolutely. And the ambition of this whole mission really hangs on whether they can bridge that gap effectively. This is where the statement tries to be more than just wishful thinking. It doesn't just promise inspiration, it hints at a method. It suggests a way that insights gathered globally are supposed to translate into local impact.
Which connects directly to that other interesting point, this idea of global reach for local results. The source says it's for people from all over the world to connect, global scope. But the stated aim is hyperlocal action.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is how they frame that connection. The global reach isn't just for prestige. Bringing people together from all over the world isn't about high-level networking, apparently. It's meant to be the engine for cross-pollination of ideas. The vision is quite explicit. People come, learn from each other, this global exchange, and then the goal is to immediately turn that into usable strategies for their specific community, wherever that might be. Chicago, Nairobi, anywhere. It almost suggests a shift away from the old model, where the big institution holds all the knowledge and dictates it outwards. This sounds more like the institution as a facilitator, creating a space for community leaders and activists from everywhere to learn from each other horizontally. It provides the platform, maybe some tools, but the solutions themselves are generated by the participants.
Okay, if that's the model, then how they make that happen becomes absolutely crucial. How do they ensure these global chats actually lead to something useful locally? The source gives a clue. The goal is to give meaningful discussion and user engagement.
That phrase, meaningful discussion, is doing a lot of work there. It has to be the operational heart of it. It implies the programs can't just be, lectures or looking at exhibits. It suggests structured interaction. Maybe workshops, maybe simulations, facilitated sessions designed for real problem solving. It means the measure of a program's success wouldn't be just who spoke, but what actionable ideas people walked away with. So, tying it all together, the source paints a picture of the center acting less like a museum and maybe more like a high-level training institute or incubator focused on civic leadership. People exchange global perspectives specifically to sharpen strategies they can use back home. The engagement part, the active discussion, the practice, the trying things out, that seems to be the real engine of the mission, maybe even more than the historical artifacts themselves.
So the difference between visiting a regular presidential library and visiting the OPC, according to this plan, it's like the difference between reading a book about fixing bikes and actually leaving a workshop with the right tools and a clear list of what needs fixing on your bike back in your garage.
That's a great analogy. Precisely. The language demands active facilitation. It puts the onus on the staff to be more than just curators of the past. They need to be orchestrators of future solutions, which, raises another big question. Does this mission set an almost impossible bar for success? If you're measuring impact by this global ripple effect, how do you ever really know if you succeeded? How do you quantify that?
That's the huge gamble baked into this vision, isn't it? This deep dive really highlights that the OPC's main goal, at least as stated here, isn't just about preserving history, that's there, of course, but the driving force seems to be acting as this catalyst, this launchpad for community action, spreading out from this central hub but happening decentrally all over the world, global thinking powering local action. So what does this really imply for the center's future and how we should view it?
Well, it means success is going to be measured in really complex ways.
Yeah.
It won't just be about visitor numbers or fundraising goals. The sources strongly suggest success is about exportable knowledge. It's about what people do after they've engaged with Center. It's about the tangible changes they make back in their own communities. Because ultimately, knowledge is most valuable when it's actually understood and used to tackle real problems.
Right. Yeah, and that forces the center itself to stay dynamic, constantly evolving, instead of just becoming a fixed historical monument. Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe something for you to chew on. Given this really strong, ambitious focus on people taking what they learned back to their communities, perhaps the truest measure of the OPC's long-term success won't be how many people walk through the doors in Chicago.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be the concrete, positive changes that ripple outwards, documented in communities far away, places the center's creators might never even see directly. Now that's a definition of success that relies on both history and hope working together in a really powerful way.